AlphaNerds.online. Inherit the Earth.
Good evening, everybody. Okay, so here we are in Oklahoma 3 days ago. What did you know? The Super Bowl's going on. We're enjoying 76-degree weather. And only a couple of days have passed, and we are now school's closed and under at least 4 inches of snow. How does that happen?
I have no idea. I don't even know what to say about this weather. It's absolutely crazy. We had like a 60-degree day, and then also we had 19 degrees. So,
well, why I bring that up is ultimately we were trying to put a show together here, which would have had some musical talent right here in studio, and it would have been nice. But due to the road conditions, that wasn't going to happen this week.
I was really excited about that show, too, because I had absolutely no idea how it was going to come together with... what was it? Would they say how being a musically talented helps you with gaming, or no?
Or various other tactical capabilities. Gaming is just a tactical skill, essentially, in so many different ways. But we got the king of tactics right here.
Ah, yes.
Gonna be with us tonight, Bradley Havenar, who is a veteran, 14 years. If you listen to the show last week, you know what we're dealing with here. We're dealing with a man who has recreated himself. He was a man who is essentially a new soul heading on a new journey in life and kind of recovering from some of the past traumas that he has endured through his journey. Bradley is with us here tonight. Bradley, thank you for joining the show.
Hey, everyone.
Hey, Bradley.
Hey, everyone.
How you doing?
Doing well, Annie. How are you?
Oh, I'm wonderful tonight. Thank you.
Terrific. Hey, thank you for coming in on such short notice, and I do apologize for, the situation, but you really did come in and dominate the AlphaNerds program. You basically brought us about 640% higher listenership than we have had in ever.
It was a good show.
Yeah, it was a great show. 877 it placed out of the top 1,000 in downloads from iTunes. So,
wow,
Bradley, how does it feel to be a mega sensation overnight?
I guess it feels awesome. I'm just happy to be a part of it.
We're really happy to have you here.
Anybody recognizing you out there yet?
Oh yeah, I got a call from Tom Cruise. Actually wants to do the movie.
No way. Is it like Top Gun 52?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, I that would be both you guys flying along in a jet. I mean, that was Navy though, right? You're a Marine.
Yeah, you're right. I lied.
That would be an embarrassment, and by some levels of terms of how we look at the pride in which service we served in. Now, I'm an Army vet. You're a Marine. I'm not going to try to tell you that my life was any harder than yours. Yours, by far, the training, the difficulty of what you have endured is not up to the same standard in the Army. But
well, I mean, if you say so. No, I agree. But I have family and I got a cousin in the Army, and I have a cousin that was in the Air Force, and we like to joke around with each other. But I have the utmost respect for everybody who puts their hand in the air and serves our country. So, I don't like to draw lines in the sand, but Marines are better, so it is what it is.
He doesn't like to, but he's going to get the stick out and do it anyway.
Well, I'm not going to. I don't believe that there's a way to compare the armed forces. I believe each armed forces has its own particular type of style and personnel, which it is particularly designed for.
Yeah, I agree.
But that leads us to the question, Bradley. Before you joined the military, what were you designed for?
Man, I was in a band in college. I worked at Bob Mills Furniture. I worked in the warehouse, putting together furniture, prepping it for delivery and such. And I was partying all the time. I was taking full advantage of life, but uh, I was also going to church, and I was also talking to God. And I realized one day that I was not living my life how I should have been living my life, and so that's kind of how I ended up. We talked about that a little bit last time. That's kind of how I ended up in the Marine Corps. But that's kind of who I was. I kind of raised myself. I had a single mom. My dad lived 2 hours away. I got to see him every other weekend, but and he was there. So I'm lucky that I had two parents in that respect, even though I didn't live with both of them. But my grandparents really were the ones holding me together, making sure I was doing the things I needed to be doing to be a successful human being. Because my mom was always at work. She was always at work. She was never really home. And when she was sleeping. But she did what she had to do to take care of us growing up. And that's my life before the Marine Corps. That's who I was.
So you had particular values that led you to the Marine Corps. We spoke about those before. We felt that kind of paying service to your country was akin to paying service for God.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, I had one grandparent who served him. He was in Vietnam, and he, I remember he was our hero growing up. Me and all my cousins and everybody, we looked up to him. And all we wanted to do, was kind of follow in his footsteps. I remember 9/11, and I remember telling my dad, like, I'm going to join. But then I went to college instead of right after high school. And I tried to do my thing instead of doing what I knew I should have been doing. And so that's kind of, that's why I went back and I decided to take that other road.
Yeah. Yeah, and so I tell my nephew, the best life lesson that you ever learn is don't let 25-year-old you make a decision that 32-year-old you wants to kick your ass for. So
yeah, no kidding.
So you've now made some decisions, and you can now look at some of what your values are in hindsight. Tell me what happened to you after you left the military and began to go to college. Because college for me was a very transformative experience, and I imagine you've probably had some similar stories.
Yeah. So, here I am. At the time, I just turned 36 this year. So I was 34 whenever I started college, I think, or I turned 34 shortly after getting to college, and it was very strange being at a university full of young people. But there was quite a few non-traditional students there as well, but nothing compared to being all the 18-year-old, 19-year-old, 20-year-olds kids. But I was lost, man. I went from being a Marine to being not a Marine. Once a Marine, always a Marine. That's what we say, and it's true to an extent. But once you leave the Marine Corps, like, there's other stuff out there. There's life out there, and it's strange. Especially, I was in it for 14 and a half years exactly, and so it was a very hard transition. Something I looked forward to, I thought, at first, whenever I first realized I was no longer going to be in, because I was medically retired, and I didn't know how to take it. I was a platoon sergeant, and I just got back from Australia with my company, and we were doing a MEU workup, getting ready to go out on ship, and I got pulled out from my company and sent to Wounded Warrior Battalion to go heal and get better, and then I found out I was getting medically retired instead of going back. And
Oh wow.
my platoon deployed. In fact, they pulled my platoon off the MEU to go to Syria and stand guard in Syria for the artillery guys while they set up a little artillery base. So my platoon was the only one out of the whole, which is 30 plus guys out of the whole MEU, which is a whole battalion of Marines plus, on ships, and they got pulled to go to Syria, and I was devastated that I wasn't there leading them. And so as I transitioned out, they were just getting home, and it felt good to have them home, but I felt like I let them down because I wasn't there. And I brought that with me back to the civilian world, and it was very difficult to be without my Marines around. I didn't go to work anymore. I went to school instead. I didn't fit in there very well because I was the same age as my professors. And it was, and I'm like, what do I do? Who am I? And so it took me a while, but in January of 2018, so about a full semester into college, I just had this revelation of where I needed to be. And, I finally made it to where I needed to get to so far in my journey. And so that's helped me. Once I had that little revelation of what was next, I found an energy that I didn't have before. And that's kind of propelled me to where I'm at now.
Yeah. No, I understand that energy very well. I feel like I sense it myself sometimes. I want to kind of go back just a little bit.
Yeah.
You'd mentioned PTSD, and
yeah,
it's such an unusual condition because most of the time you don't even realize what it looks like or how it behaves. My wife was having a hard time understanding some of the difficult situations I was putting my family through because PTSD and also my autism diagnosis at the time was unknown to us. I just appeared, I guess, like a complete raging jerk to her most of the time.
Well, yeah. Well, you don't know how it's going to manifest itself at a certain point. So one minute you could be just fine, and the next minute you're raging out, and it could have been just the smallest thing that triggered you.
Yeah.
And that's, if we don't know what's going on in your head, that is so hard to cope with.
So can you share some things that might have been going on, not tied to your career, but tied to the human being that Bradley is, the people outside of the suit?
Yeah, so that's one of the things that I used my career to cover up my PTSD. Like, I could go to work and I could rage at work, and I mean, I was a good Marine. I could yell at Marines and I could tell them exactly what I thought in that second that I was pissed off, and I could whatever. And look at that Marine. He's getting things done. He's, and I could be this ball of fire there, and it looked like I was doing good. But then I could go home, and then it was just this, like you said, this rage would come from nowhere, or like I could no longer, I could no longer function without alcohol. I had to drink, and I had to drink away the memories, drink away the pain that was inside, because I couldn't be in pain. I'm a Marine. I couldn't be in pain. I'm a man. We don't have this type of feelings, about whatever, we're not supposed to have pain, and we're not supposed to feel pain and suffering and sadness. We're indestructible. And so I didn't know what I was experiencing for a long time. And because I was numbing it with alcohol. And then later on, I have been diagnosed as bipolar.